Health and social care research in this country is receiving more government funding than ever before. It'll soon top £1.7 billion a year. Involve is a national advisory group funded by the National Institute for Health Research that brings together NHS patients, carers, service users and researchers to make sure this is focused on the issues that really matter.
There's been a huge change in how research is conducted in England over the past 15 years. And the greater involvement of patients and the public in the research cycle helps to ensure that research is more relevant, that it's answering the questions that people need to have answered.
Through Involve, Angela has worked with different groups that commission research projects. She reviews applications and helps decide which projects receive funding.
Medical knowledge isn't the only important knowledge. It's important to know what it's like to actually have a condition or to use services and how that impacts on someone's life. Medical knowledge doesn't tell you that. Well, having lay people on commissioning groups means that researchers are starting to think about service users and carers, not so much as the subjects of their research project, more the partners in their research, and we're there very much to encourage and support that.
The NIHR is a very exciting concept. I think it's the first time really that the National Health Service has grasped the notion that high quality biomedical science is a really necessary core function of the NHS. And together with the enormously strong other funders in the UK, including the Medical Research Council and the charitable sectors, the Wellcome Trust, as a team, this is a really strong and perhaps, we hope, unbeatable team.
A recent success to hit the headlines has been the world's first eye gene therapy for inherited blindness. The breakthrough by the UCL Institute of Ophthalmology and Moorfields Eye Hospital was partly funded by the Department of Health and took place in one of the NIHR biomedical research centres.
In the first instance, we've done this in a very well-defined disorder that affects only a few individuals. What we hope is these kinds of treatments may also be relevant to the treatment in the future of very common blinding diseases such as diabetes and age-related macular degeneration. And these are conditions that affect millions of people.
For Stephen Howarth, the gene therapy transformed his life. This is him navigating his way through a maze before surgery. This is him 6 months after surgery, sailing through.
We've been very innovative, and using the Catalyst NIHR funding, we've been able to actually partner with charities and other charitable fundraising to actually increase the amount of funding that we have. So again, the NIHR money has been extremely important for us.
The National Institute for Health Research has allocated £5 million per year to support two initiatives to promote research in primary care: the National School for Primary Care Research and the Primary Care Research Network.
Those of having fever over the last day or so.
Dr. Matt Condley and his patients are participating in a multi-centre study about sore throats. Only around a fifth of sore throats are caused by bacterial infection and can be treated with antibiotics. But there's currently no clear evidence about tests for the bacteria. If the new test proves to be effective, it could provide significant support to GPs in achieving quick and accurate diagnosis. The project's aim is to target NHS treatment most effectively, and Dr. Condley says it's great to be involved.
While there's minimal increased workload, I think that having something more concrete to be able to tell the patient, I think that's better from our point of view. It settles us and it gives the patient a lot more reassurance.
Professor Paul Wallace is the director for the National Institute for Health Research Primary Care Research Network. He says gathering information from primary care is vital to ensure NHS treatment is not just appropriate but also cost effective.
What I'd like to see is that it becomes increasingly easy for general practitioners and other primary care professionals to be involved in research. And the whole point of the Primary Care Research Network is to provide the infrastructure and support to make sure that they can keep on with their clinical care and at the same time enable their patients to get involved in research.
Deputy Director of the NIHR National School for Primary Care Research, Professor Richard Hobbs, says the school's main aim is to increase the evidence base for more effective management and care of patients.
It's intended to provide support for some of the leading departments of primary care in the United Kingdom to collaborate more.
The UK's growing obesity crisis is most serious in Scotland. The National Institute for Health Research is tackling this challenge head-on. Well, one study is evaluating an innovative scheme that is changing the lives of overweight Scottish football fans. We sent Ed Barron to find out why these fans are now so happy with losing.
The obesity problem facing the UK is particularly bad in Scotland. Here, almost 2/3 of adults are overweight and more than 1 in 4 is classed as obese. Now though, some are finding that a visit to their favourite football club can help. This innovative scheme is called Football Fans in Training. Here at Rangers in Glasgow, those taking part attend weekly sessions of physical activity and receive diet advice. It's backed by the NIHR, the research arm of the NHS, and for many, the results are life-changing.
I've had to buy a whole new wardrobe of clothes, literally everything. There was an empty wardrobe. I took about a dozen bags to the charity shop. I've been coming here since I was a schoolboy, and my grandfather sitting up the stairs there. And for me to come in here twice a week and walk down the same tunnel, get changed the same changing rooms at, Franz Beckenbauer, Johann Cruyff, that's a big, big thing, big motivation.
I started off, I was just under 26 stone and I lost 5 stone and I still got another 5 to go, but getting there.
NIHR-funded research shows those taking part in the programme lost 9 times as much weight as those who didn't. As a result, schemes like this are being rolled out at many more leading football clubs.
The marvellous thing about the NIHR and its public health research programme is that it enables really, really first-class research to be conducted. We were able to do a full-scale randomised controlled trial to properly evaluate whether or not the programme that we developed, Football Fans in Training, was able to not only help men lose weight in the short term, but we could follow them up a full year later to see whether or not they'd managed to sustain that weight loss.
In addition to public health, NIHR funding can cover research into safety issues where there's a potential health outcome. A recent example to hit the headlines is a study which showed reduced street lighting in England and Wales is not associated with road traffic collisions or crime, suggesting local authorities can make savings by dimming street lights at night. From helping local councils on their budgeting decisions to reducing waistlines in some of the most overweight areas of the country, NIHR research is getting the public involved in changing priorities and changing lives.
The NIHR Journals Library will clearly benefit patients, not only in England but across the world. There is going to be a plain English summary in each of the journals. In addition, it will list the public and patient involvement, which is very important, but because all the details are there, available easily on an open website, everyone can have a look. And doctors, nurses, patients and the public worldwide will be able to see what has been done and what happened.
In a groundbreaking trial on 20,000 trauma patients across 40 countries, investigators looked at the effects of a drug called tranexamic acid on major bleeding. The drug, which helps prevent the breakdown of clots, is so safe and easy to administer, it's sold over the counter in some countries.
It's a very cheap drug. It's been shown to decrease bleeding in various types of surgery, but no one had ever yet done a big study in trauma patients.
The trial was a major success. The earlier the drug was given, the greater the drop in deaths from bleeding.
It's a very wide-ranging sort of area, and because it's wide-ranging, you're going to have people with very clear views and very clear experiences, who have very strong opinions about what works and what doesn't work, and what the solutions are for the people that they've looked after or that they've experienced. And in that sense, it's all the more important that we have evidence to back up anything we do, because it would be just so easy to go with the voices that are strongest about what they think the solutions are. And it's just really important for commissioners particularly to understand the whole range of interventions that's available, the whole range of service models that are available, and what the evidence is behind them. One of the exciting things about reading the themed review is also about the studies that are ongoing right now, and you have quite a breadth of work around sort of how GPs and community nurses better support patients, work in care homes, volunteer-led support. So I think those are, those are kind of that they're really important pieces of evidence that are sometimes harder to get hold of. If we're talking about research that benefits people who have palliative and end-of-life care needs, well, they are in every setting. Therefore, we're going to understand it. We need to understand it in every setting.
Research is central to the NHS. The reason is that we need two things. We need the evidence from research to deliver better care. Much of the care that we deliver at the moment is based on uncertainties or experience, but not on evidence. We can only correct that with research. In addition, there are wonderful slipstream effects of having research culture in the NHS and of taking research forward.
Now that the Mental Health Research Network has been going for a couple of years, is that it's incredibly helpful to researchers, particularly because often they have problems in recruiting to the target in terms of the number of people they need in the study. And one of the things that the Mental Health Research Network has done and will continue to do is to take off some of that administrative load and enable researchers to concentrate on what they do best, which is carrying out the research process.
Research and research culture is central to a thriving NHS. The NIHR is key to developing a modern and effective health system. We all need to work together to strengthen the evidence base and use this opportunity to develop the reputation of the NHS as a centre of excellence for health research alongside high-quality patient care.
A clinical trials unit is a registered organisation that ensures quality of conduct of clinical trials.
A trials unit is an organisation which helps chief investigators run trials and helps them run them properly to give a clear and valid conclusion.
It's a professional group of individuals, usually based within a university, but made up of statisticians, trial managers, IT programmers, perhaps people who focus on data management or monitoring the quality of the data, working together to work alongside the clinicians who will be the chief investigators for clinical trials.
Well, it's very, very difficult for a chief investigator working on their own to be aware of all the things that can go wrong with a clinical trial. And the trials unit provides you with a group of experienced investigators who've seen those problems before and can see the pitfalls before they occur.
It's made me very positive about what I can do in my specific area, in my unit, and also in my directorate, and the work I can do can positively help people. Another thing I got out of the internship was the opportunity to meet lots of people, to talk to them about their problems, how they're applying their skills to try and solve those problems.
It gives me the opportunity to do the research but help with the transition into practice, and it means I can still work with the patients, make sure that the work and the research that I'm doing is relevant and also that it's practical as well. I feel really honoured to be doing what I'm doing and I'm enjoying every minute. Go for it. I don't regret any of the awards that I've done. Pick something that you're passionate about and something that you're interested in, because that's the way that you're going to enjoy it and you can sort of thrive on the want to improve things and wanting to improve patient outcomes and improve things for patients.
It provides the funding, it provides the support and the time. Wherever you are in your career, you can apply for the award. I've had time now to take out and to learn and to relearn things that I've been so busy clinically doing for the past 30 years. The support you get from Health Education England, NIHR, is fantastic. They've looked at what very clear pathways there are to encourage people like myself to stay clinically. You know, if you're committed to improving care and you've got an idea, don't wait.
The difference with the ICA programme compared to other programmes is that it delivers so much more than just providing you some funding. Clinically, I've really developed having skills that I didn't have before. I feel like I'm hopefully an inspiration to other people so that they can follow in my footsteps as well. I think combining research and clinical has been exceptional, and I do really believe that this is a really useful combination and productive combination.
I chose an integrated clinical academic programme because it was really unique to me as a healthcare scientist that I had the opportunity to be able to carry on my clinical work, still working in a hospital where I have the contact with patients and get to actually see what they feel the issues are, alongside being actually able to do the basic research to make a difference to them in the future. My research is already having impact, reinvigorating my clinical work and my interest in research.
The NIHR award for me was a natural choice. It was open to pharmacists at the point that I was looking for some fellowship funding, and it offered everything that I wanted and more besides.
My background was in basic science. My research interest was a very clinical outcome, and I wanted to therefore transition from my bench research to actually look at this in clinical patients. And the NIHR provided that facility very well. The NIHR are there, they're very supportive, they've got the means to provide the funding and the fellowships available.
I chose to apply for the NIHR funding stream because it's an opportunity to have a supportive structure for my whole duration of my PhD, to have funding and to be involved in a network throughout the whole training course. Take advantage of all the opportunities available. There are lots of other sort of pre-doctoral fellowships available and short-term training contracts and internships, and I think it's really good to have an understanding and a feeling and be involved in some research and some sort of development of ideas before embarking on a doctoral application. Find out what's going on in your area, find out if there are other NIHR fellows nearby and speak to them and get involved early on.
The NIHR has supported me in giving me protected academic time. It's been great for me to have the time and the opportunity to develop different skills in research methodologies that I wouldn't have had before, with really good supervisors and access to conferences and courses and all of the NIHR support.
I particularly chose the NIHR, one because of the prestige of the awards that is quite internationally renowned, but also because it offers very much a training programme. So it's not just about the independent research, it was able to offer me professional development and a training programme which allowed me to develop both my personal and my technical skills. If you're looking for very much a training programme in which you can develop personally and professionally, as well as conduct your own independent and unique research, then I would definitely look up the NIHR Fellowship Awards.
Being an NIHR trainee is to be part of a group who are important leaders for the future in healthcare to benefit patients, to be a group where there is an organisation that cares about you, that supports your research, but also wants you to be a success and involves you in a family with activities that will help you to develop your skills and career. People think of research as just doing experiments in a laboratory or asking questions. It's more complex than that, and there is a balancing job, and that's why an organisation like NIHR is so essential, because it can help people to develop those complex skills. One of the things that makes the NIHR training organisation so effective is that we listen to and hear what our trainees want to tell us. And so we constantly improve what we offer, we constantly develop it. So we're very keen to find out from our trainees what we can do better.
So the trainee event is one of the key dates in the NIHR calendar. We have it every year and it brings all of the trainees together. It makes them feel that they're part of the NIHR family, and it gives them a sense of community, it allows them to network, and it's also terribly inspirational. So they go away feeling really good about where they're going and what's going to happen to their careers next.
We make it very straightforward for industry to work with world-leading scientists in world-class facilities embedded in the nation's leading universities and hospitals. And we're in a unique position to help. We provide fast connections to just the right expertise and enable partnerships to form that deliver high-quality research on target. We make it possible for the NHS, universities and industry to form powerful alliances that are driving forward the frontiers of medicine. This speeds up the development of new drugs, new medical equipment and new diagnostics, which benefits both patients and economic growth. The UK has some of the best science in the world. If you want to work with us, I encourage you to get in touch.
I'm a clinician, I'm a doctor by training, and so I have a clinical job and I also have an academic job, and my main employment is within a university, and in that I head something called the Cicely Saunders Institute, which is actually the world's first institute of palliative care. And what I do in that is research and teaching. So NIHR is very central to what I do, and because I'm also a doctor and I work in the NHS, I also like to see and try and ensure that my practice and those of people around me and people I work with is also based on the best evidence that we have, so that we can provide the very best care for patients and families. And NIHR fills an area in supporting research that didn't exist before, which was about taking research in the bench and getting it to patients and families at the bedside. And that stream of research didn't really exist before, and NIHR has really focused on that. And that's important because it's no good work going on in silos at the bench and never getting to influence patient and family care to improve the health of people, to improve the wealth of the nation.
I am a paediatric research nurse. I work in the Evelina Children's Hospital. I work with a multidisciplinary team of doctors, nurses, other healthcare professionals that are involved in the setup and planning and running of clinical trials. When the clinical trial is up and running, I'm involved in patient and parent care and ensuring patient safety. This is my first role in research. Prior to that, I'd worked with the NHS as a clinical nurse specialist, actually in paediatric urology. And I first became aware of the role of the research nurse and the NIHR when a renal research nurse approached me, a colleague, to see if she could come to my clinics to recruit patients into a blood pressure study. And until that point, I had not been aware of the NIHR, the fact that clinical research was actually so clinical, that it wasn't just scientific and being done in the lab and being data input. And so I became very interested in what her role was and her involvement with children and families, and how she could kind of cross the barriers of clinical nurse and research nurse.
The NIHR offers me a whole range of support. So right from the point where I have an idea for a proposal, for a research project, I can go to the NIHR Research Design Service, and they'll help me identify what would be an appropriate funding stream. They might direct me to people who have the appropriate expertise to help me build a good team. They'll give advice on the design of the proposal. They might also give advice on how I can get public and patient involvement in developing my research proposal.
I started my journey with NIHR when I became a co-applicant on an NIHR grant. And then following that, I'd keep my eye out for NIHR briefs that came out, the commissioning briefs, some of which were, as I said, very good, and some which needed some work, I thought. So I thought the best thing was to get involved with NIHR and actually try and join one of the commissioning panels. So I joined the commissioning panel, which is related to mental health, because that's one of my areas of research interest, and also clinical interest. And so that was where I started really working with NIHR, and I've continued with that panel over the last number of years. I've continued working on NIHR funded grants, and I also, during my time at UCL, I work as a clinical academic. I also work for the London Research Design Service, which is supported by NIHR. So we provide research advice and support for clinical academics and other researchers who come to us for advice about funding, where to go to, how to improve their methodology, and hopefully how to be successful. The most important thing as a clinician is the outcome of the work that you do. So it's really important for me that the work that I do improves the outcomes for my patients. And every day when I sit in surgery, I'm trying to make decisions with my patients to improve their health and provide the best quality of care that we can. Most of the decisions we make, we hope, are going to be evidence-based, but there are lots of times where there is no evidence for the decisions we're trying to make. And when we sit with patients to discuss decisions, it's often about what the outcome's going to be, how big the effect's going to be, are there any harms associated with what's going to happen? And that's why we need really good evidence and really well-conducted research in order to answer those questions. I remember a time before NIHR, and I think what's fantastic about NIHR is that it's achieved an amazing amount in the time it's been there. So it's allowed for people with very little research experience to develop research questions that have great clinical relevance and importance to patients. It puts a huge emphasis on patient and public involvement. It thinks about commissioning important areas which are important and relevant to the NHS, and it delivers on studies and provides some infrastructure to deliver on those studies as well. So I think it completes the whole circle. So you can have a really good idea, and at the end of it somebody can fund it and somebody will then implement it and disseminate it within the NHS.
I sit on the Health Technology Assessment Panel for mental, psychological and occupational health therapies, which for me is a slight departure from my own personal experience in life. It's more to do with me as a carer, me as a professional for 25 years in social housing, as a school governor, and coming across people who have occupational health problems or mental health problems. So part of my work on that panel is more as an interested observer and or member of the public, but also as a carer. So I thoroughly enjoy the work on that panel because it allows me to think of myself as a citizen in the wider society, which I think is a strong part of what the NIHR does. We're looking to benefit the NHS, but of course that is an integral part of British society. One of the joys, the real joys of working for the NIHR is that public members are on absolutely equal footing with all of the professionals. We all have different skills to bring, we all have different experiences, and everybody's skills and experiences has equal respect in that room.
One of the big things that all clinical researchers need to understand is something called good clinical practice, and it's the ethical and scientific heart of clinical research, and anybody involved in research has to understand those principles. So in the Clinical Research Network we undertake to provide this training to our research staff. We've got an online learning provision which is available to all eligible research staff 24 hours a day, and also we provide taught programmes using a network of facilitators who are based in the Clinical Research Network and who provide face-to-face training through workshops. How we provide that sense of connection and belonging to people so that they can feel part of the NIHR is really important, because supporting, enabling and connecting those people will make sure that we can continue to deliver high quality clinical research and make those changes. And we've done that by having annual meetings where we've brought clinical research nurses together. We have a monthly newsletter. We're very active using social media, so we've got a very healthy tweeting community that brings the community of nurses together. And last year, the NIHR sponsored a Nursing Times Award for clinical research nursing, and that was great because it really served to highlight clinical research nursing and how nurses support the mission of the NIHR.
I'm a cell biologist by background, and after spending many years at the bench, I was ready for fresh challenges, and I decided to come to work for the NIHR because I wanted to get involved in applied health research where we see research findings translated into practice for patient benefit. It's important that an academic workforce is developed in the NHS to ensure that there is appropriate communication between patient groups, clinicians and academics so that the right research questions are being answered, and so this will be translated into patient benefit.
NIHR is a virtual organisation, and I know to outsiders it looks a bit complex. We're all extraordinarily proud of NIHR, the work that each and every one of us does.